All right, we're going to edit this. It's going to take me a while. Anyway, keep talking. We're talking about Dave Hunt.
Yeah, Dave Hunt. He was, I believe he was under Duncan MacLeod. I could be wrong, but all that lineage comes from Jim Maloney.
Right.
So, yeah, Duncan had students that Danny McDougall all the way up to Cape Breton.
There's another name who did kickboxing. And
yeah, I fought on three of his cards. Three of his cards up in Sydney. Always the bad guy coming from away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great times, actually.
Because we used to have kickboxing, obviously, but especially in the 80s. I started in 83 under Paul Talbot and Ralph Hollett. Mm-hmm. And we used to kickbox out of a number of places. The Studley Gym that was in Dalhousie University. Mm-hmm. We used to be in the Halifax Metro Center, down in the basement. And it was funny because when we'd come out of the side door facing the dome, up top was the Nova Scotia School of Kung Fu and Tai Chi. There was a Kung Fu school up there above the dome.
Yeah.
And we used to compete out of the Misty Moon and out of it's on Windsor Street, the Olympic Gardens. That's it. Yep. That was in 83 to 88 is when I did it. But there's so much history when it comes to kickboxing, but that's not what we're trying to talk about right now. Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah. So you're currently here, you're teaching people. Are you still training Wei Chi?
I actually put a gi back on a little over a year ago. I unfortunately was one of those people that landed a black belt. My parents moved, so I had to move to PEI, and Bill Marshall, who was in PEI, the Wei Chi Ru guy in PEI, was an hour drive. So when I moved to Prince Edward Island, that essentially was the end of my Wei Chi at that point.
Right.
They had a boxing gym in Summerside where I lived. So that's when I started buying boxing gloves and training in boxing. So I'm still at Tribal. I go to Tribal Boxing. I train there.
Awesome.
That's been well over 15 years. Interesting story. I dropped back into the old Wei Chi Ru Club because I drove by one day and I noticed the single knuckle neon light in the window, and I said, oh my God, somebody opened up the dojo. So I walked in there. This was maybe 2006, 2007. I walked in there, and immediately is a big set of stairs. For anybody that's been there before, they know there's a big set of stairs. You get to the back of the building, you walk a big long hallway, and then you turn back to the front of the building where the boxing gym was. The kickboxing side was one side, and then the far room was the dojo.
Right.
And I could hear, as soon as I opened the door, before I even started the stairs, I could hear someone beat the hell out of a duct tape bag. You know the sound of somebody beating a duct tape bag?
Yep.
And it was serious, like no less than 4 punches, hiss every punch. Somebody was going at it, right? So I was super excited, like, what's going on here? So I walk in and I see Jim Maloney sitting there. Now I know who Jim Maloney is.
Exactly.
He doesn't know who I am.
Oh, okay.
So I'd only met him once as a child. I walk in there and I introduce myself. He has no idea who I am. I said, I have a shodan under Louis Hopper, and this is the dojo that I trained in as a kid. I just came when I saw the lights on. He's all happy. I told him who my father was, and he's like, oh, I remember meeting you. I remember your father. So that's how he knew who I was. His wife at the time, Bridget, was training at the time.
Okay.
So I just kind of jokingly said, you should let me hold some pads for her. And he basically looked at me and said, put your money where your mouth is. He said, he looks up on the shelf. He goes, there's the belly pad right there. And there's the hand pads. Go ahead, get in the ring. So we did about 4 rounds that night. And that was the start of me being one of the trainers at Tribal.
Awesome.
Tribal has moved 2 or 3 times since then. We call that Tribal 1.
Oh, okay, yes.
Tribal 1. And then they moved to Victoria Road and Albert Lake in behind the Petrocan there. They were there for a short time, which was Tribal 2. And then they moved to Bob Tapper's gym when he was on the corner.
Yes, I remember Bob. Yeah.
Farrell Hall.
Yes, that's
Farrell
right.
Hall. So
and they're there now.
They're still there.
Yeah. Because Andrew Dykins is there a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, my good friend Andrew Dykins. Shout out to him.
Also a Wei Chi guy.
Guy. Well, he comes to our club at Manimal when he can. He was training Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and everybody's scared of him because they know that you just can't hurt the guy.
Yeah.
A Wei Chi, right?
Wei Chi for sure.
Oh, it's just so.
Yeah. So. There's regular coaches there. I wouldn't say that I'm a regular coach just because I'm unable to be there consistently. But anytime that I'm there, I'm getting my hands in the pots. I'm helping out a little bit. Andrew's there quite often. There's Charlie Beals has come back over now from coaching at other places. Charlie's now the resident full-time coach there
for boxing.
Boxing.
Okay.
Yeah. So They have a small kickboxing program going on there as well, where Andrew Dykins is a big part of it, and Andrew Thomas also helps out.
Oh yeah, I know that fella. Another good guy, good fighter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So the every once in a while too, the kickboxers will be lucky enough to have Jim around. So if Sensei Maloney's around, you're getting input there that's tried, tested, and true.
You know, that's important because there's a lot of people that might watch this video that don't really know the history. They don't worry about history, especially like history of martial arts in general, but especially in HRM. And people like Sensei Maloney that pioneered Wei Chi Ru in Canada, pioneered kickboxing, North American kickboxing in Nova Scotia, the Maritimes, and just where it all came from. You really got to research and go back and see all those people originally that fought in the 80s and, you know, fought Johnny Terrio here, and like you were saying, Bill Wallace, and just, you know, it's just amazing. But come forward a bit. How did you get involved with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
When I was probably, I'd say it was a year or two after I stuck my head back into Dartmouth Wei Chi, I made a decision that I was going to start Muay Thai because they didn't have a regular kickboxing program at Tribal then. The focus was on boxing, and they had Wei Chi Ru classes, and they had a few other styles that were coming in to rent the gym as well. So I walked into Fit Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Scott McLean, shout out to Scott.
Oh, yeah. Awesome guy.
Yeah.
Another OG.
Yeah. So I walked in there, and, you know, my Wei Chi background allowed me to keep my head above water with the killers. And that was the heyday. That was the heyday of Fit Plus, too. You had TJ Grant, you had Chris Kalidas, you had Tristan Johnson.
Wow.
So many, I could name so many other people. They brought in Rob Kamen. They brought in Josh Palmer.
Wow.
Yeah, a Muay Thai stud. So I went in essentially just to do the Muay Thai program and really got excited about getting back into stand-up. So I was about 26, 27 years old, 25, 26 when I started that.
Yep.
And it was an MMA gym at the time.
Right.
And there was always a divide in the gym. Mats, you know, tatami on this side of the floor and just floor mats on this side of the floor. So heavy bags and stand-up. And all jiu-jitsu, everyone with gis on. Right. And actually, my wife got me a gi for Christmas one year, and I looked at her and I said, "This old blue gi back here." I said, "Yeah, that's going to be the most painful gift that I ever got in my life." So I was training. I was still competing back then. I was still looking at having kickboxing matches then. So what I would do is I would implement 1 or 2 workouts in a month. I'd probably do 2 or 3 in a month of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right. And as a stand-up guy, it completely rocked me. I mean, fish out of water. It was the top workout that I would get. I could kickbox, I could play basketball, I could do all, you know, do my road work. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rocked me. So in the span that I was training at Fit Plus, about 7 years that I was training at Fit Plus, I probably did about 10 or 15 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes, but stretched out over that time. Okay. Right. So I wasn't looking for stripes. I wasn't looking for rank. It was really the workout for me. Right. And like I said, I was starting from scratch, brand new. I had a little bit of stand-up to take down judo knowledge just that my dad had shown me. Yeah. But I wouldn't even say it was worth a stripe. I mean, I was completely a beginner. So at that point, I had a showdown in Wei Chi Ru, and I was a few years away from my Wei Chi Ru training. Very humbling experience to go into a BJJ gym. 100%. As a mid-20s, you know, you're at your peak. I feel that. You're at your peak in your prime, and you have a 15-year-old that you can't break the guard, or you have a 50-year-old that you can't get off of you. Right. Exactly. Very, very, very humbling experience. Yes, it is. So I knew that I was set to get used up as soon as I walked in there. Yeah. As soon as I put my gi on, I knew I was in for it, and of course I was. Sure. And vice versa with respect to that. If they were all of a sudden, they were like, "Hey, let's try this striking thing." Yeah. They'd be a fish out of water. Most of them would be out. Right. Unless they cross-train. But, you know, when you have one art, you only do one art. When you go into a different one, it's a whole different ball game. Don't think your art is, I'm so good, I can defeat them all. No, not really. Yeah. You know, and it boils down to the individual, too, of course. But, Yeah. So I had that basically as like a little garnish, essentially a little bit of extra on my plate when it came to my stand-up training. Right. I would add a little bit of BJJ. My little girl actually got to the age where she was old enough to start training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So she said she wanted a pink gi. So you have to think of a 6-year-old girl. Okay? So she said she wanted it. She would do it. She would do BJJ, and it was just across the street over here, Bulldog Martial Arts. And she said, yeah, I'll do it, but I want a pink gi. I said, okay, perfect, no problem. But I'll cut you a deal, little girl. I said, I will buy you a pink gi, but you have to stay with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu until you grow out of the gi.
Ah.
And she said,
nice.
Oh, okay, no problem.
I like that.
Slimy dad buys a gi 2 sizes too big. Yeah. So by the time she grew out of that gi, she was ready to get another gi. She wanted to get another gi.
Oh, that's so good. So she's still training. And
she's still training. She has other sports on the go here now.
Oh, yeah.
But she does get on the mats whenever she can. And that's essentially how I started back regularly training BJJ. So,
right.
I'm it's coming up on 2 years being pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Really at my age, it just comes down to injury management.
100% agree. Now my motto is slow and steady, no agenda. Yeah. I don't have an agenda. I just want to train nice and easy. I want to, people always say, oh, train hard. But here's my philosophy real quick. And I keep checking to make sure this thing doesn't pause again. If you're constantly getting beat up in training and you can't defend yourself, what if you get in a fight and you're so beat up, you can't do anything?
Right.
So you got to save a little bit.
Yeah, for us, a hobby talks about happy training.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen that little spiel that he does. And it's true. If you are training at 70% and you're at a good pace and everything's good, you're getting a good workout, you're okay the next day to train.
Right.
And if you do that, 4 or 5 times a week, compared to the guy that goes in and goes balls to the wall, gives it everything, he's got bruises and hyperextensions and he's got the whole 9 yards, he needs 2 days to recoup.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 days if you're my age.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the other guy is in there still doing 70% and he's on his 4th or 5th day in a row.
That's right.
So the hotheads, I try to stay away from the hotheads.
Yeah.
At my age, I don't want to not only hurt myself, but I don't want to hurt them either. I don't want to discourage them from their martial arts venture. If they're ready to step up and work a little harder, then then we could start putting them through those motions. But I don't want to be the guy to teach them the lesson anymore. You know?
For sure. And there is a difference. I mean, you're just in the club training, you're having a good time competitively.